In this lesson, you're going to create a functional shopping cart system. To begin, open the Smart Method Store project from your Sample Files folder. And open products.aspx in Design View if it isn't open already. Now you're going to add some code that will add the selected product to the shopping cart when the user clicks Add to Cart. First, add a row command event handler to the grid view control. You learned how to do this in Lesson 3.2. The row command event runs when a user clicks a button field. Now add the following code to the new event handler. If e.commandName == add to cart. This if statement isn't strictly necessary since you have only one button field. If you had more than one button field, you could tell which one had been clicked by checking the e.commandName property against the command name properties that you gave to each button field. Now add the following code inside the if statement. Int row clicked equals convert.toInt32 e.command argument. The command argument property contains the index number of the row that was clicked. This will be used in the next step to retrieve the product ID. You learned about the E object in Lesson 11.8. Now add the following code on the next line. Int product ID equals convert.toInt32 gridViewProduct.dataKeys begin square brackets row clicked end square brackets dot value. The value property of the gridViewProduct.dataKeys collection contains the product ID of the row that was clicked. Because you linked the grid view to a link data source control, it automatically populated the dataKeys property with the values from the product ID field in the database. The database values that are stored in the dataKeys property can be changed by altering the dataKeys property in Design View using the Properties window. Now add the following code on the next line. List int products in cart equals begin brackets list int end brackets session cart. As you learned in Lesson 3.12, the session object can contain a collection of objects of different types. These objects can then be retrieved using a key. In this case, you've decided to use cart as the key. It is common practice to implement a shopping cart by storing the cart items in a session collection. This is a fine solution, but it means that the user's shopping cart will disappear after their session ends. If you wanted the shopping cart to persist between visits, you'd have to store it in a database table, although you would only be able to do so for users who had logged in. Session values can run into problems if the website is running on a web farm where several web servers share a single site. These problems can be solved using State Server, but you should be aware that they exist. Now, if the user hasn't added any items to their cart yet, the cart collection will not exist and a null value will be returned. Note that values stored in the session object have a type of object. You learned about the object type in Lesson 5.13. For this reason, You need to cast the object back into the correct type before using it. In this case, you're casting it to the list_int type. You learned about casting in Lesson 5.9. Now add the following code on the next line. If products in cart equals null, products in cart equals new list int. If the shopping cart is null, this code creates a new list collection to store the cart. You learned about creating list collections in Lesson 8.2. Now add the following code on the next line. Products in cart dot add product ID. Now that the code has established that the list collection exists, it adds the product ID to the collection. Now add the following code on the next line. Session cart equals products in cart. This code saves the updated shopping cart collection into the session object. You'll retrieve the shopping cart again on the checkout page, which you'll create in Lesson 12.10. Close Visual Studio now, saving your changes if prompted. You've now completed Lesson 12.7. Create a shopping cart.